Hello, everyone. My name is Maxime. This podcast was created to help you live your life to your fullest potential. Let me introduce myself. I am a coach, entrepreneur, philanthropist, and the world's #1 whole food, plant-based body recomposition expert. From supporting and losing family members through cancer, including my ex-partner, from sleeping in my car and being $60K in debt, I turned my life around in 1 year and rebuilt myself completely while building multiple successful multi-six-figure companies. Throughout the years, I've built a solid foundation through health and fitness that has allowed me to level up in other areas of my life, including health, relationship, family, and business. Through those ventures, I've been able to help over 600 people from around the world completely level up their mindset and get in best shape of their life on a plant-based lifestyle. I wish this podcast to be of service on your journey. Enjoy the episode. All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Maxime Show. Today, I'm joined by a very special guest, my OG mentor, Vince Del Monte. Vince, how you doing today?
I'm good. I'm doing fantastic, Max.
Awesome, man. Well, I wanted to bring you on board because a lot of people ask me how I got started and like who helped me do all of this. So I just want to give a quick background story for people listening of like how Vince changed my life, because I would not be where I'm at or having the level of impact or the quality of life that I have now without him. There's a point in my life where I was still taking care of my ex-partner who was going through cancer. I think I was texting you because I saw your ad, your post of like, I'm looking for 5 business professionals, which I've used hundreds of times at this point now. And then I was like, well, I need to make 10K a month. That's like how much cancer treatments I got to pay every month. So I reached out to you. And then we started chatting, and then I was on my way to the office because I worked a corporate job at the time. And as I was like, oh, I'm interested, I'll have money on my next paycheck. I drive to my work. My job is like, hey, we have to let you go. We're running out of money. I was like, shit, I just lost my job. I don't know if I can do this now. And I think you put the idea in my head to do personal training. So I went to go work in person after I got let go of my job. And then COVID happened. Could work anywhere. So I was like thinking about the offer you made, but I was like, I don't have the cash. So I was like, no, I'm gonna do this on my own. I'm gonna create plans and sell them on Instagram or like create a website. And as I did that, probably made $200 in like a month and a half. And I was like, all right, this is not working for me. And in our conversation, I was like, man, like I don't have enough money to join your program. And I remember I sent you a screenshot, and I went to find that screenshot, Vince, and I got the number that I had in my bank account tattooed on my finger. I had $34.37 in my bank account when I sent you that screenshot. I was like, dude, I will send you this, and then as I make money, I'll pay you back. You're like, no. It's like you need to like show up as a man ultimately, and when there's a will, you're gonna find a way. Ultimately, you need to find a way. So I like sat there. I was like, let me just call my credit card company. I was like, again, overloaded. I owe them a shit ton of money. There's no reason for them to help me. And I was like, I need like this amount of money to like do something. And they're like, yeah, cool. I remember I like texted you, do take the money before they change their mind. Like just charge the payment on my card before they change their mind. And turn that like whatever, like 3-figure investment into like over 10K the first month. And then that's the smallest month we've ever had since then. So that's what Vince did for me. Ultimately, it just allowed me to change my life.
That's
so I want to say
amazing.
thank you on recording. I've never said you thank you on recording.
Oh, dude, man, you've been a special guy ever since we met. I remember one of my favorite memories, I'm sure you remember, is when I was in Vancouver.
Yeah.
And you had a couple of 10K months. You were a fast rising and 6-figure coach, and you were consistent. I'm like, this guy just keeps knocking them out. And I noticed you were a massive executioner and just trusted. You didn't overthink, didn't overcomplicate, didn't overplan. And that's one of your gifts. You don't overthink. And that's what a lot of people do. They make this so freaking complicated. It's like they're trying to go to Mars. And I remember when we went to Equinox, we were going to get a lift in together, and it was $300 for a monthly membership, and it was our only chance to get a lift in. And you looked at me, hey, should I pay $300 because they don't have day passes? I'm like, are you going to shoot some content? Like, yeah. Okay, cool. Well, you think that would produce you an extra sale? Yeah, for sure. And you said, what the hell? You would have said something else. You paid $300 to come in for a 1-hour lift.
Yeah.
And then I think on the way out, we're getting a shake, and you looked at your phone and you got a $900 sale or something like that. And that was just demonstration of proof that hey, coaching doesn't cost anything. If you're a massive action taker, and I don't know if you knew that intuitively, but you're living proof that coaching doesn't cost anything. It costs $0. And you're never going to be ready. What does readiness have to do with anything? What does timing have to do with anything? Right. And you just understood that, trusted yourself, went all in. And dude, you've built a great brand, an awesome community. You built a team, and now you're helping other people do the same thing. And you become a massive leader in our community. People, actually, we just shared your story with somebody who said, do you have anybody in your community that started at zero, like completely zero? Which is everybody. But like, I thought of you when you're telling me about the park bench story and having $34 to your name. That is evidence that as long as you're an action taker and you trust the process and you have faith, anything's possible.
Yeah. Well, I remember that story, and that story has taught me some concepts that I still use now, because I'll be honest with you, I was a procrastinator. I was an overthinker. I was like a non-action taker, but you kept repeating the same things in a coaching program, right? Take imperfect action, right? That was a big one. Once I started taking perfect action, I was like, man, like I'm broke. I got cancer treatments to pay. I'm about to lose my apartment. Like, screw perfect action. I don't have time for perfect action. I just have time for imperfect action. And then you just said like, take a perfect action, tweak, take another imperfect action and tweak. And as I started doing that, I started seeing results, and I was like, oh shit, like what he's saying works. And I was like, what else is he saying that works? Right. And I just gave full trust into you ultimately, because when I came in, I was in the 6-figure, and it was like you had like videos laid out of what to do, right? Like Instagram bio, script, all that fun stuff. And I think I did like 16 hours a day for the first month, like every day, so I could make that whatever amount I know was going to end up at like over 10K. But I just literally did the video and I did it. I watched the video and I did it. And that's what led me there.
That was all your testimonials. You're like, I just did what I was told. And that's it. I think that's the big problem these days. You know, we get people that come on our calls and they're like, so how does this work? I'm like, who cares how it works? The question is are you going to implement what I tell you? We have results that you want. I just want to know, how's this different? Who cares? Does it even matter if it's different? Even if I give you the exact same plan that you had in the other program, how's it going to be different if you don't do anything different? So there's this I don't know where it's come from, but people think that it's just victim mindset. It's lack of ownership, and it's not taking full control over your future and understanding that everything that's happening to you is because of you. And I tell people, if you're not getting value from a program, it's your fault. That's not my fault. Even if you came into the program and it was the worst program in the world and you got one golden nugget, right? You're going to make 10x your investment. And that's how successful people are successful. They come in, they get resourceful, and they extract. They decide, I am going to make the most of this situation. I think that is a common theme among successful people. They're not looking for a hand-me-out. They don't ask, how does this work? It doesn't matter. If you got on a call and I have something that you want, it's like, how do I sign up? What do I need to do? Just tell me. That's the mindset you need. And the closer you can get to just tell me what to do because I'm going to do it. I trust myself. Now that's the problem. That's another most people don't trust themselves. That's why they're not making the investment. It has nothing to do with money. They don't trust themselves. So how do you trust yourself? You have to take an act of faith, right? You have to take a step that you've never taken before. But everyone wants these guarantees. Oh, I need a guarantee. Well, it doesn't work like that. If there was guarantees, then what would be the satisfaction and the reward? So helping people just like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? There's so many ways to look at this, but at the end of the day, there has to be an element of faith and trust in yourself. And it's a muscle that gets developed every time you flex it.
Yeah. And that's why I really love your messaging, because we're not here to hold your hand. And so originally when I joined with you, it was like, it was a shot on myself. It was like, if I don't do it and this doesn't work, then this is my fault. And ultimately I wanted to make it your fault if it didn't work. So what I did, I was like, let me just literally follow everything this guy says. And if it doesn't work, what I can't say that it's me. Right.
Got it. Oh, there you go.
And then I did it and I was like, I made a ton of money and I was like, oh shit, well, it works. And then so it's my 3rd year with you now. I just keep renewing every year. So I just wanted to we want to blame other people, but we have to do 100% of the work to be able to be in the position to do that.
It's so funny. I was out to see Bedros a month or so ago. I was doing a half day of coaching with him, and we were talking about some shifts we made in our coaching program, and you've seen all the changes we've made. And one of the mistakes that we made was I got some consulting advice, which was, hey, you should do this dedicated one-on-one coach thing. And cool idea. It was good on the marketing side, and people liked hearing it on the sales call. Oh, cool. But what we did unknowingly is we basically communicated, we're going to ensure you get across the finish line instead of we're going to support you. And I can't promise that. Nobody can promise that. So funny enough, that's when we saw a reduction in results when we promised something that we couldn't deliver on, which is we're going to ensure you get across the finish line. I can't promise that. That's like me saying I'm going to cook your meals for you, spoon feed you, take you to the gym, lift the weights for you. And once we went back to the original message, and you were part of the program when the messaging was, it's not my responsibility to get you results.
Yeah.
That's on you. If you're not getting value, that's on you. There's the top of the mountain. Go figure out how to get there. That's when we produced the most results from our coaching program. So it's a great lesson learned. And when we shifted to, it's not my job to hold you accountable. That's your job. I will show you how to hold yourself accountable. All of a sudden, community's better, results are better, we're producing better human beings, and our coaches are becoming better coaches, helping others simply take ownership of how to utilize, get resourceful, and not look to somebody else. And that just seems to be a really common thing these days. I'm not sure why, but it's got to stop. And coaches like us have to just draw the line and say, hey, man, I'm not here to sell you. Like, if you need a freaking full-blown 45-minute explanation of how this works, you're not ready for this, man. Just go waste somebody else's time. If you've seen what we've done, come on in. We'll tell you what to do. The rest is on you. That's it. And people they want to make it more than that. But that's really what it comes down to at the end of the day.
Yeah. And I remember that phase when you changed that message, because I saw a difference in the conversations that were in the group and the comments that were being left. And I feel it was all those people on the sideline that were just waiting to get a hand holding. And then as soon as you change it, they're like, I'm in. Like, I made it into the world ultimately. But yeah, I did see a difference in the shift in the community and the questions that people were asking. It was like, where do I find this? Well, there's the resources. You just type the title that you want and it's there, and you watch the video.
Yeah. It's hand holding, right? And business is tough, right? Changing your body is tough. Improving a relationship is tough. I think, people really need to want it badly. I mean, you wanted it, right? Like, you were, I don't know if you would have called it rock bottom, but like, you didn't really have much.
Yeah. I had nothing. Ultimately, I was going to lose my apartment. I had no money for food. Like, I was screwed.
So what do you tell people who are in the same spot that you are in and they let fear get the best of them? Let's flip this interview because I hear this all the time. Oh, money's tight. And I'm like, it has nothing to do with money. It has to where did you get the confidence to bet on yourself?
To me, it was a must. It wasn't even like, I couldn't wait to have the confidence to bet on myself. Like, it was a must, right? Like, no money in my bank account. I was eating at food bank, man. I got this for, so Vince, I don't know if I showed you this, but this is the paper I got to go eat at the food bank the week before I joined your program, because I didn't have any money for food. So I got it framed and it's in my office to remind me where I came from. But I didn't have time to like get confidence to bet on myself. It was, I have to do this. I don't have any other way. I can't get 4 jobs. It was middle of COVID. Everything was shut down. So I just had to do it.
So what we're talking about now is, comforts from the devil, right? I think a lot of people don't take action because frankly, they're comfortable. It's not that bad. I think people have to get to close to rock bottom before they take action. And that's what they say, right? Good is the enemy of great. And maybe things are good right now. And that's the problem. Things are good. And once things are good, you start to get complacent. You start to compromise. You get comfortable. Next thing you know, you're slipping backwards. I think, again, comes back to setting higher standards. You've had higher standards for yourself from your athletic days, right? Yeah, so you weren't in alignment with what you'd produced with, your powerlifting, your triathlons. So this was probably something that also came from knowing like, hey, I can do this. And I think people need to leverage facts from the past that disprove the fear right now, right? If you look in your past, when did you do something that you didn't think you were capable of? Well, you've probably done it plenty of times in other areas of your life. You have to borrow those facts. I call that green data. I think we get a lot of red data, which is negative self-talk, but green data is evidence from your past that proves that you've got what it takes. And that's what you make your decisions based on, green data.
Yeah. So I'm curious because obviously, like I looked at the stats. You said you coached over 2,000 people in the past 5 years, right?
Between
So
6-figure coach, 7-figure mastermind, VIP 101. That's right.
and so what's the, because I have a lot of people that listen to me that listen to this podcast that are other fitness coaches that are trying to see what I'm doing, trying to get strategies and tactics out of the content or out of the podcast. So I want to give them a little something, because honestly, I want everyone that wants to have their own business to work with you, because honestly, you've changed my life and you've allowed me to just become, if I might toot my own horn, a freaking machine that I am today. And that's because of like the resources and the group calls and everything that you've done. And so how do you help people for the most part when it comes to this? So just, it doesn't come from me, because I've preached you multiple times before.
Dude, we have a plan and the plan works, right? It's not rocket science. I try not to, get into a full-blown sales pitch here, but, first things first, we need a winning offer, right? We need to solve somebody's problem, and we have to create a promise that we can fulfill on. All right, that's step one. Like, what are you promising? What is the value exchange? For me, it was helping skinny guys gain their first 30 pounds of drug-free muscle, just like I did. Right. That was my very first offer. No nonsense muscle building. Skinny guy secrets to insane muscle gain. So I think the very first step is to create an offer that's tied back to your pain. The pain of being skinny Vinny. That was one of the toughest phases of my life. Not being able to get the girl, being the walking billboard as your number one pushover you can imagine. That was skinny Vinny. So muscle changed my life. So when I'm selling the solution, the vehicle that gave me confidence, that changed my life. So I think the very first thing is sell what you're a product of, right? Sell your story. And Maxime, that's what you've done, right? Your whole business is built around your transformation and your discoveries and learning a new way of eating that's improved the way you look and feel. Now you're sharing that with the world. So this isn't rocket science. So that's the very first thing. Create an offer that's rooted in your pain, because your pain is always your purpose. And when you start to do things according to your purpose and your passion, that's when people are going to feel the conviction. They're like, I believe this guy, right? I can trust this guy, right? The next thing is so we need traffic. We need people to discover who you are. So we need to create value in advance. I spent over 10 years doing 2 YouTube videos a week, Mondays and Thursdays at 5 p.m. If you go check out my YouTube channel, one of the first YouTubers since 2008, started with a flip cam, $150, stumbling, contradicting myself, super dry, super boring. My first 200 videos on YouTube sucked. So as we talked about earlier, imperfect action, just trying to help people. I learned this from Frank Kern back in 2010. He said, what's the number one way to sell? Keep in mind, this is 2010. I didn't know much about this world. And he asked such a simple question. What's the simplest way to sell? And this has always stuck with me. He said, show people you can help them. So if I can show you that I can help you, wouldn't you want more help? I just say, do you want some more help? So my YouTube channel is just built around helping people. And I heard something else. Maybe Evan Pagan, I can't remember. He said, make your free content so much better than people's paid content that they are just blown away that they have to invest. They have to check out what you've got. And I thought of every single YouTube video as like a $500 product. Every single YouTube video is a $500 product. Put so much value into one YouTube video. They don't even need to pay me. And that was another one of my ways that I built my fitness business. And I think I just give 3 points here. And the last one I'll share is just keep evolving. My business was built around me evolving, right? I started off with skinny Vinny, and then I got to 190 pounds, and I hit a plateau. I wanted to get bigger. That became maximize your muscle. And then I wanted to really bulk up, and that became 21-day fast mass building. Then I wanted to get my pro card. That became stay shredded status. Then I wanted to really figure out how to get bigger and leaner, and that became hypertrophy max. So my business model was 100% just built around things that I was already planning on doing, transformations. And this is just one last quick thing here. My brother Adrian, who's the leader of our program, Men of Bedrock, he's a full-time teacher right now. He's got 3 boys under the age of 10. His wife is in school, and he's building this business around just a few small windows a day. And there's some days that he says, man, I'm struggling. I don't know how you've done this for 17 years. I feel like quitting. And when does it really start to pick up? And I'm like, man, I forgot all these kind of questions. And then he just kind of answered his own question. He said, well, we're doing well, we're growing, not as fast as I want, but what's really cool is I'm getting paid to do what I already like doing, which is learning about nutrition, learning about fitness, sharing principles around becoming a better man. I'm like, not a bad deal, is it? He's like, it's way better than being a teacher. I'm around all these crabs, all these ideas, just get shot down. No matter how good of a teacher I am, I make the same amount of money. At least here, there's no cap. And I think that's the last piece of building an online business. It's never stop growing, always be evolving, because people, if you look at the guys who've got the biggest brands, they're growing at a rapid rate. So there's always something to learn from them. So if you just understand that, you build your whole business around your own personal transformations, build products from those, and there's your $1 million business.
Yeah. Well, so many things you said in there. So one of them is learning from those other people that are ahead. I remember, I think you talked about Craig Gallagher, Keynote Body.
Great. Yeah. Greg Gallagher. Yep.
Yeah. So I remember you were on a call and you said something. It was like, if you really listen to his content, and he's literally just repeating the same thing over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, that's interesting. I was like, how do I repeat the same thing? Oh, I didn't grasp it. And then like, I think at the 2-year mark into the business, I was like, shit, I'm literally repeating the same message over and over again. And then there's some that's clicking more. And I was like, cool, I'm gonna grab this. So a lot of the nuggets that I got are from you, right? And a new level is new devil. Mm-hmm. I didn't get that until I started hitting new levels. And I was like, oh, all right, here's another challenge. I'm like, when I get to this amount of money, then things will be different. And I think I was with you when we were in Vancouver, and I just had hit like a few like 10K months, and I told you like I thought I would feel different. Remember that conversation? I was like, I thought I would feel different when I hit 10K, but I just still feel like the insecure little guy I was before I hit 10K months. Right. I like to dive into that with you, the part of like entrepreneurship that honestly not a lot of people talk about, because you're very authentic and vulnerable online when it comes to that stuff. And most people, it's like, yeah, making millions and just crushing it. But then there's a downside where I've had many calls with you. I'm like, dude, I'm breaking down. Like I was crying on the call. I was like, this shit's hard. Like what is like a piece of advice you could give to people? Because that part, man, is rough and no one talks about it. And it's the reason why I think most people quit.
Yeah, let's talk about that for sure. So a lot of entrepreneurs are wired for doing, and they're accomplishers. They're achievers, they're milestone makers, right? They thrive. Their fuel is growth. Now, the question is why? And I can only speak on my behalf, but Maxime, I've been in some extensive therapy for the past 6 months. And I'm actually going off to Utah next week for a trauma-based intensive, just me and the therapist for 4 days. And one of the things that I've personally struggled with is feeling like I'm enough. Mm-hmm. And, first of all, the story I told myself is, yeah, I'm an achiever. This is the way I am. This is the way I built. This is good. And, recently I shared on my social media that last year, about this time, we had a $1.7 million weekend. Mm-hmm. And similar to what you described, I didn't really feel anything different. If anything, I just felt more pressure to do it again. And I didn't even take time to celebrate it. And what happened is I slowly started to unwind, and I slowly started experiencing what was a real breakdown. And we had serviced more than we could fulfill. Mm-hmm. And it created some internal issues and stress that we just weren't prepared to manage. And that started to chip away at my credibility. And I continued to use the same fuel. We got to go harder. We got to go harder to try and solve this, because that's been my fuel. Go harder. Gas pedal, gas pedal, gas pedal. But what I didn't know is what I needed most at that time was connection. I needed to enroll my team and get vulnerable and say, hey, guys, I need help. I need you guys to really support me now, help me now. We bit off more than we can chew. And I didn't know why I couldn't do that. And it was because I found my identity in achievement, accomplishment. I didn't see currency in relationship. I didn't see currency in connection. I didn't see currency in vulnerability and being open. And what happened is I just created more disconnection, which created more issues, and to a point where I became emotionally unstable. And then next thing you know, I'm taking it out on my kids. I'm taking it out on my wife. I'm taking it out on my team. And now I'm getting further and further from resolving this. And I realized, holy crap, why do I have such a hard time connecting with people? And through a 6-month therapeutic process, I was able to figure out, why that was. And what triggers all of this in my life is 3 things: loss, disappointment, and rejection. So those are the things that create this trauma and that trigger this fuel to go harder, go harder, go harder. But what I had to figure out is, when did this first show up in my life? And the therapist took me back, and you start from 0 to 5, nothing showed up. And then 5 to 10, nothing showed up. And then from 10 to 15, I remembered cross-country running days. And cross-country running days, grade 10, OFSA cross-country provincial championships. Our team was supposed to do really well. And this was a super hilly course. And we were doing well. And then with about 400 meters to go at the top of a hill, I hit a wall. And I literally had to walk the last 400 meters. And I went from like the top 20 to into the 80s. And at the finish line, I got dragged off. I started puking, and our team did really bad. And it was the first time I remember in my past when I experienced massive rejection, disappointment, and loss. And it was the first time, actually, during this thing she took me through, I smashed the window in my car, in my parents' car, when I was 15 years old. And it's because I was so mad. I was so disappointed. And while I was talking to her, she said, "Have you ever connected with your 15-year-old self?" I said, "No." And she says, "Do you want to do that right now?" And when she said that, I just started to cry. And I couldn't even answer. I just started to cry, and I started to cry, and I was crying, and I was crying, and I like literally for like half an hour, I'm just bawling my eyes out. I said, "What's happening? What's happening?" She says, "You're grieving." And I said, "What am I grieving?" She said, "Lost. You've never grieved this loss. And you've turned your entire life into a race, because it's where you feel safe. You get identity from running, accomplishing, because it helps you escape that pain of that loss." And she said, "Do you want to talk to him right now?" And dude, I just fell apart. I just was bawling for another 20 minutes. And I finally started to talk to my 15-year-old self as a 43-year-old man. And I said, "It's okay, buddy. It's just a race. It's just a run. There's another one. We'll get him next time. You ran your heart out, buddy." And it was on that day that I learned how to connect with myself. And it was that day I learned that the reason I have such a hard time connecting and being vulnerable with other people, because I've never even done it with myself. And that day I had an awakening to see the value of actually connecting. And now I talk to myself. If something bad happens in the business, or, just any form of rejection in my life, I go talk to my 15-year-old self, because that's where the trauma was originally triggered. And I've been able to now, I'm in this healing process where things don't bother me as much, because I've learned how to extend myself love, patience, and understanding. And I've never learned how to do those things. I never learned how to extend myself love, patience, understanding, and learn how to extend even respect to myself, which creates other issues in your business, where you let people treat you like a punching bag, or you don't, or you tolerate. But it all came from stuff I had never dealt with in the past that I didn't even know was there, until I realized, like, I hit a point where I'm like, I got to figure this out. Like, this isn't working anymore. So all that to say, I think a lot of us are wired for accomplishment because of some form of trauma in the past to
Mm-hmm.
support an identity that's protecting us. I created an identity as an achiever, as a 7-figure earner, as the OG of online fitness marketing, as the top fitness business coach. And I had to protect that identity. And that identity was fully rooted in doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I confused doing with being. And I didn't realize that my identity was built around milestones and not just built around being content and being present, because I never saw value in those things. Just
Yeah.
sitting and having a conversation with my wife, like I couldn't even do that. I couldn't even give her 10 to 15 minutes. I'm like, what's the point of this? And I had to figure out why. You're selfish. You only care about yourself. I'm like, I don't think I'm selfish. I just don't know how to do this thing, this emotional thing. And I had to figure out why. And I'm still figuring this out. And these are tools and skills that can be learned. But I think a lot of entrepreneurs simply have this form of unworthiness, and it comes from something in the past, which is why they continually compete, they continually compare. And while there's a healthy version of being an accomplisher, there's also an unhealthy version that has to be managed by balancing it out with just being and shutting down and having conversations with people that have nothing to do with business, right? If somebody tells me, oh, I can't talk to people who I don't have anything in common with, that's a problem. I can't go to a party unless there's other people there and, we're on the same page. That's a problem. That is
Mm-hmm.
something you can't talk to another human being unless you have something in common. That's a problem. That means you don't see any value in connection and empathy and getting to know somebody and just listening to somebody's story. That is a very real problem that is rooted in some trauma from the past that has to be dealt with. So all this to say, entrepreneurs, I love you. We're all wired this certain way, but we have to figure out what the healthy version looks like and the unhealthy version looks like, or else you'll just be on this quest of more, 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 more. And
Yeah.
I'm telling you, you're never going to be happy if you're not happy with where you are right now.
Yeah.
And that is not a settling mindset. That is not, there's all this BS out there where, well, no, you're just settling. Like, no, what is wrong with being content? Somebody who needs to accomplish more, grow, go, that is a dysfunction. That is
Mm-hmm.
actually an unhealthy thing to always have to Now, I'm not saying that we don't have standards and we don't have goals, but if you're only happy when you're achieving something in the future and not in the now, means you don't know how to celebrate. You've lost the ability to be grateful, and it can lead to a place where you accomplish all this stuff, you go to your grave with nothing, and you've left everybody behind. You've left all of the relationships, all the connections, all the experiences for the quest of more. It is a real thing that a lot of people don't talk about because we recognize growth and and this is stuff that gets publicized on social media, right? It's
Yeah.
like that's the metrics. That's what gets publicized, not the time you spend with your kid or with your girlfriend and with your parents, all that. That doesn't get put up on social media. That doesn't get applauded. So the stuff that happens in private is the most important stuff.
Yeah. Well, wow.
Sorry about
Every,
that. That was a little long.
well, honestly, as you were sharing that, I can feel my throat tightening up because I was connecting very much to what you were saying. And I was like, I was making me want to tear up. And I was like, don't tear up. But every time we talk, I always learn something new. And it's true. I had this conversation with my fiance about contentment. And it's like, when are you going to be content? And I was like, I know it's not an amount because I learned that from Vince. It's not like that when I get to like 10 million, for example, that I'll have that feeling. But I was like, I don't know what that looks like. Maybe when I help the 10,000 people, but probably not, because then I'll probably want to help like freaking million at that point. And so, yeah, it's definitely the side that most people don't talk about. And I would say you've worked with more entrepreneurs than I've had, because I've only been in this field for like three plus years now. But I think most people are wired that way when it comes to high achievers. No, I don't think everyone starts off as like a healthy high achiever. Everyone starts off as like there's this little bit of trauma. Tom Bilio, I
Yep.
don't know, butcher his last
Yep.
name. So he's interviewing an
Yep.
ex-CIA agent, and he's like, the high achievers, one thing that they teach him is like high achievers, people that want to perform, has all had some healthy sources of trauma. He's like, not no trauma because they would have no desire to be better, but not too much trauma where they fell into like alcohol or drug or addiction, but just enough for them to always want to prove themselves. And I feel like that's where I fall. That's where a lot of people that I know that in the program fall. And it's a hard transition. I did see the shift in your message that you've been talking about on social media. Like you've been talking more about that shift, but how
Better
long?
business, not bigger business.
Yeah, when you said that, I just really looked at my team. I really looked at what we had, and I was like, okay, how can I tweak this? Because it's true, you can make 50K more, but if you jack up your expenses to be able to make that 50K, you're just stressed and you barely made anything more.
Yeah, a lot of people, my therapist calls it being blind to the blindness. And you're just completely immersed in this world of more, next level. And there's nobody just, checking you and just, asking you, hey, did you celebrate that last win? Did you stop to actually feel that, like how that felt? And no, we just got to get to the next level. And this is a journey everyone's going to go on. And typically you won't wake up to this message until you lose something of great importance. Maybe it's a relationship. Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's a key team member. But typically we don't, like, looking in the mirror is the hardest thing. To look yourself in the mirror and to realize, man, this guy's got some great stuff. I like that. Probably some of the trauma from my past was our dad pushed us, right? Now you hear the message, don't push the kids too hard. Let them decide, well, you know what? Me and my brothers, you look at all the good things in our lives, we got pushed from my dad. And some people say, yeah, that was too much. You shouldn't have put that much pressure on you. You guys were so young. Yeah, but you got to look at the good stuff as well. So I definitely, don't want to throw the, what's that saying? The water out with whatever, the bath, whatever. But there is a pro to being pushed, but you also, like you said, you got to make sure, has it developed to something that's lopsided?
Yeah.
To where there's an imbalance. And I think the first step is being aware that, hey, my life is too one-dimensional. And I think if you look at the most successful people that people look up to, they do see, like, I want to be like that, but they're one-dimensional. You have to ask yourself, do I want to be a one-dimensional human being? And I don't know what goes on behind closed doors with certain people. You see cars, you see mansions, you see beautiful experiences. You don't know, do the kids hate the dad? Is the wife even respect the father anymore? Like, are they on the brink of what you don't know? Does the team respect them, or is the team out just operating out of fear? And you just don't know. So you really have to figure out what's your ideal end state. What is your desired end state? And there's two emotions I want to have, at the end of my life. And I'll share one of them. It's peace. I want to experience peace. And peace, from my experience, comes from letting go of control. I am most not at peace when I'm trying to control everything. And that's what everybody talks about these days. You got to control, be a control freak, guess what? I believe in a higher power. I believe that I can't control everything. There's a lot of stuff that I can control, but I also believe that there is a good father who's got a plan for my life, and he's also navigating things, and I have to be open to some twists and turns that weren't in my plan. I believe that he has a better plan for me than I have a plan for myself, because I don't serve myself. I serve a higher power. So I'm open to, hey, maybe I need to check myself. Maybe slowing down doesn't make sense to me, but maybe that's what I need to do in order to be better for the next level. So entrepreneurship, it's a tough journey. And I think the big thing is just not to find your identity in your metrics and in your accomplishments, but in just being present and the connections and the experiences that you're creating and the lives that you're changing, right? Get excited about that, the community that you're building. Find your identity in the results of your students. That's good stuff to get excited about. But if it's just about, 2 million a month, now 3 million a month, like I know these guys, they're just ticking time bombs,
Mm-hmm.
it's just a matter of time before they implode. And not to say that that happens to everybody, but you've got to be more. You weren't wired up just to do, you were wired up to be, and find your identity in being present and not accomplishing. And that is really, really hard.
Yeah. I remember some of our last like few one-on-one conversation we've had. That was we spent almost a full hour on that because I was like, man, we're doing all these things, but like I don't feel good. Like I want the word peace is what came up. I was like, I just want some peace out of all of this. And do you think there's like an age component to it? Like as you go through like also more years of experience in business? Because I feel like I'm 3+ years in now, or you've been at it for like 15+ years now. Right? It's been almost 3 years we've known each other. It's crazy. Over 3 years we've known each other. It's crazy. But do you think there's like a age component in like family wise, kind of where you're at, and also like a decade plus in the space that it's kind of like, okay, I'm realizing that like I'll never actually get there, and now I need to start looking at other alternatives?
Absolutely. Yeah, you're going to resonate with the message that you value the most right now. That's going
Mm-hmm.
to be based on the experiences that are being given to you right now. So this message wouldn't, I've heard this. I heard this. What we're talking about, I've heard this for 10 years. My parents warned me of this. I heard other people talk about this, but I wasn't ready to hear this message. I
Yeah.
didn't see the value in slowing down. To me, that was settling. That was being lazy, right? That was defeat, right? I had stories around that term, but what I realized was that I was saying that because if I went there, then I would lose my identity because all my identity was wrapped up in accomplishment. And accomplishment was where I felt safe.
Yeah.
But accomplishment led to disconnection, which ultimately led to me losing stuff that I didn't realize I could lose, that I discovered was the most important. And this is what a lot of people call rock bottom. And then you
Yeah.
wake up. You wake up and you're like, holy crap, I've been building this whole thing on a bed of sand and not a
Mm-hmm.
rock. And I want to rebuild on a rock. And rebuilding on a rock looks like building with people in relationship and connection and with authenticity and with trust and vulnerability. These were foreign concepts to me. So I really believe that, if you can, if you're listening to this right now and, like this sounds good, you got to set up systems to make this happen. So I didn't have any, great systems in place, like, weekly date night. It happened, but not all the time. What about, taking every Friday off? What about every third Tuesday you do a self-care day where you don't work, no one has access to you, and you do things, that aren't productive?
Yeah.
What about walking an hour a day where you're not listening to an audio? Like, what about just taking Sunday off, every Sunday off, and just being present? That is so hard for an entrepreneur because you don't feel like you're doing anything. That's the time where you're going to get in tune with your thoughts, and you're going to be able to slow down and feel and celebrate what you've accomplished. Journal those days. Start to think about the future. Start to be grateful for everything around you. Those are the things I never did.
Yeah.
And because I didn't do those things, I was only fueled by more. But if I had sat in more, wow, I'm so grateful for this lifestyle I have, probably wouldn't have kept pushing so hard. How do I set up some systems to like protect this? God
Yeah.
forbid we put in some systems to actually keep what we've built. No, if you're not growing, you're dying. Well, what about if you're not stabilizing, you're going to die? What about let's stabilize before we try and grow again? Trying to grow can lead to death. Right? You're just trying to
Yeah.
get bigger in the gym. That can lead to death. So what about let's slow down, let's stabilize, let's keep this. And I never did that. I never put systems in place to protect what I'd built. And slow is smooth and smooth is fast. So sometimes we need to slow things down, smooth things out, and that's what sets up the next level. So that's just a
Mm-hmm.
different mindset, right? Hey, you had a
Yeah.
couple massive months in revenue. Let's set up some systems to stabilize this. Same thing in the gym. You don't just keep bulking. You You got to stabilize everything. Same thing with strength. You don't just keep getting stronger. So you're going to snap something. Same thing
Yeah.
in life.
Yeah. Well, I relate a lot to it. I'm definitely more at the beginner phase of where you were at when you started all of this, but I'm connecting with the message, and I have since we spoke about it over the past 2 years. And I'm in the middle now. I'm like transitioning towards, but I'm definitely still very much so in the forefront of like growth, grow, growth, more, more, more. But then I have to catch myself and be like, slow down a bit, right? We can't sprint forever. You do Ironmans, you can't sprint an Ironman. You have to like chill at one point and pace yourself. So no, I appreciate the wisdom, because it's definitely a good reminder to like continue to do that work and schedule those things in. Be proud of me. I take 1 week off every quarter now. No one
Nice.
has access to me, no social media, nothing.
It doesn't sound like much, but that's a lot. That's amazing, man. That's really good.
Yeah, well,
And
to me, it
that's
was a
when
lot
you,
to schedule it at first. I was nervous the first week. I was like, fuck, is something crashing or burning?
and that week you get to ask yourself some tough questions. What am I scared of? Why am I
Mm-hmm.
so scared to take a week off work?
Yeah.
Okay, this could happen. This could happen. This, okay, why? So why am I putting so much stock in these things? And then you start to ask yourself some real questions. Do these things control me? Oh, crap. Do I want these things to have this type of grip on my life? Huh. And if we don't find that space to ask, why am I so, like, just ask yourself, why am I feeling this?
Yeah. It
Why is
was
this thought here right now?
those, I think you told me at one point, like, do something that's fun for you. And I was like, I don't know what that looks like, Vince. I sleeping, working out. I don't know what that looks like. And I went to Cabo in January, or took 1 week off. I re-proposed to Ivy properly this time, because the first time it was like, we're moving from the United States to Canada. But man, I rented a sailboat. We went out on the ocean, just a whole boat for the two of us, propose. And I just sat there and I was like, this is what I built. And that was actually the first time in 3 years that I was like, this is what Vince meant, of like,
Mm,
like enjoying what you've built. That was the first time when I was in the middle of the ocean. I was like, oh, this is cool. This is where we're at now. So that was really powerful. And that's all I like what you shared.
and what did that feel like when what did your fuel become when you went back after being able to have that appreciation?
To do it again, ultimately, and to build a life where I'm able to do these fun things. Because at first I was building it to build it, not to be able to enjoy it. So that was
Mm,
the difference. When I came back, I was like, I let go of a few people, and I just key decisions kind of were, I had time to reflect ultimately. And now I'm in a position, and everyone's in place in the team now, that I could technically leave for 2 full weeks and still be okay right now. Um, yeah. So that's what came out of that, is like, how do I create more of these moments for myself and for my fiance?
that's awesome. How do I create more of these moments?
Yeah.
It's great. Not how
Yeah.
do I make more, how do I create more of these moments? That's awesome, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm working on it. Everything you tell me, I implement.
Yeah, it is. And it is kind of realizing that, hey, ideal life design. I don't know if you heard the training that Amy and I did in Houston, but it was so good. And it was start with the end in mind, Stephen Covey, but not not specifically in what, but how. How do you want to feel? And when you
Hmm.
get clear on the feelings you want at the end of your day, at the end of your week, at the end of the year, you can start reverse engineering. Okay, what type of behaviors need to be in place in order to have those feelings, right? I want to feel good about how I make my money. So, how do I do that? Well, I need to create a culture of winning celebration so I can hear more social proof, because that's what gives me a lot of purpose. Seeing the,
Hmm.
okay, so what would that look like in how I run the business? More events, and then you start to see like, oh, wow, if I do more of these things, this gives me more purpose. Now I'm operating from a place of purpose, not from
Hmm.
a place of pursuit. And they're very different. So I think one thing everyone can do tactically is just start thinking about what are the feelings you want to experience end of your day, end of your week, end of your year. What behaviors have to be in place to produce those feelings? And that will start to guide you in the right direction of not living a life of regrets.
Yeah. Well, Vince, I appreciate you sharing all that, man. And I know we have sometimes, I want to be able to chat with you before I drive off to Venice. Where can people find more information? who's a business podcast? Who's the avatar? Like, who are you helping ultimately?
Yeah, so we help two groups of people. We help fitness enthusiasts and trainers who want to become full-time online fitness coaches and hit their first 10K month. That's group one. Group two are people who are over 10K per month and they want to learn how to grow and get consistent, high caliber clients and end their day when they want to, ideally earlier than later. So we help online fitness coaches scale to 10K months, and then we help them also go beyond that. And I like to think we do it in a smarter and a healthier and a sustainable way. As you know, I've been doing this for 17 years as of just this May 4th, a few days ago. So I believe that this is a marathon. I both share that endurance background. And I think this is something that requires pace. And I think if you're in this for the long game, you can achieve all your goals if you appreciate that.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, I'll put all the links down below for everyone to find like your Instagram website where they can get more information. And Vince, I'll say just a massive thank you for changing my life ultimately. Like I want to tear up, but I wouldn't be where I am now and I wouldn't have the life that I have. I wouldn't have the impact that I have. I wouldn't have been able to help so many cancer patients with their journey because we've donated thousands of dollars at this point to support families that were in my position 3 years ago. So just thank you for giving me those tools to change my life and other people's lives.
You're a good man, Maxime, and I'm just really proud of you, man. You're doing some great things. Your heart's in the right spot. So it's an honor, privilege to get to watch you grow and impact so many lives and be a good man in the process.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And first time I end a podcast crying. So thank you very much, everyone, for listening. And then stay tuned for the upcoming podcast next week. Take care.
Awesome.